Hello there, this is Alexander Hall for Viva Voce Week 5. Now, yes, I'm going to start off with the first question of this week. So, question 1, what research have I undertaken independently this week? First of all, what I've been doing is I've been looking at different videos of Grenfell, of the Grenfell Tower, so looking at video footage of what happened that night, to watching Sky News and looking at the different victims who were affected differently. So I'll show you some of the examples I've checked at. So the first example is Grenfell Tower fire, people in windows, scariest video, warning, disturbing video. So that was the one that I looked at, which basically had, so it was pretty much like film footage from your phone. There was a recording of the whole building just going alight, people jumping out of their windows. There was a lot of really frightening things. I was frightened to death to look at it. But yeah, it was massive. And the main thing that I remember looking at was how it looked at the different times of when it first started to really go a fuse. So like at 12:30 in the morning, all the way to when it was 1:30 to 2:15 in the morning to 3:45 and then 4:30. Pretty much like that. It just showed like how the fire was just developing the whole night forward. And yeah, and then it also had the videos of all the different kinds of, there were people who were you could see were shouting, "Hey, let us out, let us out." But yeah, that was the main. And the YouTuber who did this video is called Mental_Boost. And yeah, I've got a link which I'll put at the bottom of this Viva, so you can check that out for yourself anyway, which I've also got on my research page as well, so that's something else to check out, and also my reflection page as well. And the same for the next one I'm going to mention is Grenfell Tower victim on starting all over again, which was created by Sky News. And this video kind of went over like this family who were living in the Grenfell flat, and their house got burnt. This woman who's the mother of daughter and son who were there, and she was saying, "Oh yeah, the things that I had on me, which I took my phone, I had my dressing gown, but I didn't take any clothing. I had to just get out quickly," and just explain the whole situation of what it was like for her, and for also her children as well. And it went on about how she had to start all over again because she was a foreigner, one of the immigrants who got affected by the fire. And then what happened was she had to stay in a Premier Inn because she had nowhere else to go, and the family had nowhere else to go. So a local Premier Inn gave them a place to stay while they were still looking for places to buy, and I think it was all for free, so they were all giving them a favour, which was fantastic. But yeah, and yeah, they showed protests of the aftermath, so all the people who were affected, who protested against all the politicians who tried to change everything about what happened with the fire, what could have been done which could have prevented the fire, for example. And she had moments when she was saying, "Oh, this is great, these protesters," and she started protesting herself. So it's a really good report that I watched to really give me an insight of just how it felt for her, and also it gives me an insight of how to portray my monologues, the poems I could be doing, all that kind, the things that I'll be memorising over half term. So yeah. The next question, have I applied this in class? You could say for me, I definitely applied the first video with my workshop session, which I can tell you about. So what we did in our my workshop session this week, what happened was we had to create a 3D object which was relevant to Grenfell. So the obvious one that you could do was the tower itself in flames, for example. So what I did was I had to get some cardboard out, stick it all together with duct tape, stick it on as if it was the real Grenfell Tower. And then what I had to do was have a big hole in the top so it was a bit like a bin, so I could throw bits of newspaper down into the little bin of Grenfell Tower. I don't want to say that, but anyway, that's what I'm going to say. It's the best way I could describe it. So what I did was I threw a bit of newspaper into the tower, and then when it got to the top, you could see that it gave that symbolism of the fire right, making its major catastrophe right at the top of the tower. And the other thing I did was I tore little chunks of paper and stuck it to all the windows that I made, so it could show a lot of it could really show the experimentation that I made, especially with all the research I did about how the fire started to increase every hour, and all the windows that were being set alight and all the fire coming out of it. So that was something that I did, which I applied from my first video that I watched, which I applied independently this week. Yes, so what practical problems have I come across this week? This week, well, practical problems. In my session in the afternoon, on which I think it was Thursday. Yeah, it was Thursday. With Gavin, Emily wasn't in our last session when we rehearsed the hospital sequence, which was not this week but last week. So not this week, it was last week, and I can mention that. So what happened was we had to try and transition our movement very differently this week while she was actually in our session this week, if I can explain that clearly. So what happened was when Emily was given like a recall about what we had done when she wasn't there, what we had to do was we had to try and make it really simple, so it wasn't too complicated, because to be honest, it is quite complicated when you're not in the first 1 week, when you're not even clear about what others have done. So what we had to do was do something else which was more along the lines of which was suitable for the role, so suitable for our section. So for example, one of the things I had to do was do my little thing, bang, bang, and then walk in and then stop Emily from falling to me. So we had to change it the opposite way around. I was supposed to be going, but no, she's actually fainting towards me, so it's easier for her. And also she'll be doing a monologue, so yes, so it gives her the opportunity to talk as well and not do all the things that I'm doing, which is bang, bang, which I probably couldn't do whilst trying to talk at the same time. But yeah, the way in which, anyway, what am I saying? What practitioners have I come across this week? So the practitioners I've come across is Ben Ockery and also Jasmine Farderman. So with Ben Ockery, I know that he is he's like this poet who creates this tries to create this narrative and description of, well, it's pretty much, it is a descriptive piece that he created, which he showed on YouTube, which is brilliant, which is worth watching. And what he did was he expressed like how all those Grenfell customers felt, so the victims in the fire, and kind of giving a lot more extensive detail about how everyone felt, what the impact was, etc., and just picking out all the different tragic things that are going on with all the people who suffered that night, what's going on with them now, for example, and just making it sound really poetic, but also sounding really like a message towards everyone who's listening, and so it gives everyone a chance to actually feel the sorrow for the Grenfell victims and for the people who have done a lot for the victims, especially the people who saved their time and saved food and saved their money and saved so much more just for them. All the consideration that went around after the fire and all the rest. And Jasmine Vardaman, yes, I've actually looked over her recently. She is from what I know, is a ballet choreographer, and she's been working all over the world choreographing with big world-class ballet companies, so including she's worked with companies in Australia, in Britain. She's done it in even Mexico, I think, and also Australia. In America, I meant America, not Australia. America, Australia, Britain, and Australia. Anyway, on that note, so pretty much she's gone around the world choreographing different choreographies. One of them was really big. So many I could mention right now, but even so. Have I created anything new? Yes, I have. There was this crawling sequence involving breathing, which we did with Joe on this Wednesday, which was also just a bit of trying to get away from the fire, trying to crawl our way out of the crawl away from the danger zone, and trying to pick out all the different feelings that you would have when a fire's really close to you. So showing a bit of panic, showing a bit of desperation, but also showing that show of relief that you survived, and also the amount of how you felt just looking at the people who didn't survive, the people who were stuck, people who died, etc., and just looking at that in a way. And yeah, and it also added with a bit of verbatim text, which Joe gave us in that session, which we had to look at on this little piece of paper which he gave us, and we just had to look at it, try and memorise it in the time we had. And yeah, so also the other ones would be the hospital sequence and the ladder sequence, which are a work in progress, and of course the working day sequence, which we are working on, me, Matthias, Matt, Georgia, and also a newcomer, which is Abby, where that's still something that we're working on at the moment. And also the hospital sequence, which I've mentioned, and the ladder sequence, which we have looked over also this week as well. What was the outcome of my creation? Well, for the crawling sequence, what went well for me was the characterization. So showing some real good character, especially showing the desperation, showing I need to get away. So showing a bit of panic, showing that sense of urgency that you just have to get away. And also the spatial awareness, so being spatially aware of people like Zach and Josh, who are on each side of me and try not to bustle my way with them, which is something that I know I've done a few times, which I've regretted doing. So yeah, those were positives. What could be better? I think timing. So some of the time I'm really just pushing too much. So what I need to do is try and keep in sync and not go too quickly, because that's something I do a lot. And sometimes I just want to get it done, go quick, and learn the text. It's a small text. It's not too complicating. Just try and learn that without showing any forms of hesitation, which can be done very soon. Hospital sequence. So with the hospital sequence, mostly really focus with it, especially knowing that at one point I was, for a lot of the time this week, I was looking over my shoulder, waiting for my cue of when Zach and Micah were on the left-hand side of their chairs, and then all of a sudden I went, oh, and I need to make sure that I don't do that. I just have to listen out to different areas of the music that is being played, so the soundtrack. So when there's a moment of the soundtrack, which is my cue to start, that's when I need to listen out. I need to listen out for that key notes that might be in the song, and just to go. And then if it goes bam, ba 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 ba, do you know what I mean? Anyway, the other one, familiarize myself with my cues. Definitely, I familiarized myself a lot with it. It became a lot more simple by the time it came along, and it just became, for one point or another, it was really simple. It got really easy and straightforward by the time I got into it. What could be better? Work more as an ensemble, because some of the time, most of the time we were just really just worried about our own movement instead of worrying about everyone else, and trying to make sure that everyone's together and trying to work with each other instead of just working individually. Especially as me and Emily, we need to be a bit more collaborative and be a bit more with each other instead of just being, oh well, we'll just do this, we'll do that, we don't care, we'll not communicate. We need to communicate. And develop with extra movement. Definitely for me, try and add extra movement. So don't make it just typing on your computer, pulling out, and then just walking straight to Emily and pulling her back. Just not doing that. And then I think the one thing I just need to do is just try and find something which is very different. Instead of doing the same thing over and over, there needs to be something else that goes with it. So yeah, that's something that I could probably work out myself. Ladder sequence, work more together, which is a positive. And what could be better? Think about the dangers. Look at the dangers and try and really get into the dangerous zone. It might be easier said than done because we've never been in a situation like this, but really get into how you'd feel if you were actually near, if you were trying to save lives, or what you'd try and do if you were panicking, waiting for someone to call you while you were waiting outside the fire building, and just hoping that someone survived that you know of. And yeah, what went well with the working day sequence? Getting into character. So the working day sequence, really get into the character, really mesmerize the characteristics that you could give, especially as I'm a colleague of the boss, and giving him his equipment, taking away his equipment, just really getting the flow of it, which is great. Something that could be better, just develop the movement, don't go too quickly, just find the right balance of pace. So that's something that I can do for myself. Alright, that's me done. This is Viva Voce Week 5. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.